about it, think 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 about it.
See this place called Baku? This has been the place that oil has been coming out of this area for years and years and years. But the Soviet Union had control of the oil in Kazakhstan, in Uzbekistan, and in Tajikistan. All this area the Soviet Union had. Now America, really something foreign policy. Let me go. Have you ever heard of Zbigniew Brzezinski? I know you didn't. You all heard of Shaq though. The great Shaquille O'Neal. John Sally, but we don't know Zbigniew. But Zbigniew got us in trouble. Look at Zbigniew. He was the national security advisor under President Jimmy Carter. Guess what? Show me Afghanistan quickly. Come on, bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. Good, good, good. Afghanistan. Did you know that in the city of Kabul, 20-some years ago, the Muslims, women, they were in government, they were in school, they were in medicine, but something was wrong with Afghanistan. You know what was wrong? The government in Kabul leaned more toward the Soviet Union. They were Muslims, but they had a socialist leaning. America didn't like that. So Zbigniew Brzezinski, an American policy, sent money into Afghanistan to destabilize the government in Kabul. When they brought up and paid for opposition to the government in Kabul, Russia, the Soviet Union, sent their troops into Afghanistan and the war began. When the war started, Osama bin Laden was in Arabia growing up. He loves Islam, he loves Muslims. He sees the Soviet Union taking over Afghanistan. Now there's war in Afghanistan to get the Soviet Union out. America says, we're gonna back those Muslim mujahideen. So American money, American weapons, trained them, and they drove the Soviet Union out after 10 years of war, which left Afghanistan now in ruins. Then they were looking to America to help them, and America backed out and left them in that condition, and a civil war broke out right there in Afghanistan. This is all truth. The country is already in ruins. Now a civil war. Now you got the Taliban. So the Taliban comes to power. They want a pure Islamic state, whatever that is, which we're all searching, to find out what that is, and everybody's trying to represent what that is, and I think some of them mean well, but boy, I wouldn't want to live in no state like that. And I'm a Muslim. I think my wife would kill me if I put her in a burqa, put a tent on her and said, come on, you walk behind me, cover your face, I don't want to see nothing. And some of you think that that's Islam. If the prophet could come back today, he might put you over his knee and beat you for putting women under that kind of tyranny and calling it Islam. We got a big job to do, Imam. I'm almost finished. Now the Taliban are in power. They control 90% of the land except this part in the northern area. And guess what? President Bush, when he came into office, which some think was a coup, I better drink some water. I didn't say that I think that, but some people think it was a coup. Why is that? Well, Mr. Gore won the popular vote. Mr. Gore didn't win Tennessee, his own home state, and he didn't win Arkansas, President Clinton's home state. So it threw the thing down into Florida. And a lot of trouble there. A lot of black folk didn't get to vote. A lot of Jewish people, they pushed a little something and the Chad fell one way when they wanted somebody else. So those Jewish people were robbed of their vote. The blacks were robbed of their vote. And then all of a sudden, the Supreme Court got involved. They did it all in a civilized way, though, you know. After all, we're a nation of laws and not of men, so these men got together finagling with the law, and the next thing we know, we got a new president. And the country is angry. And on the day that that man was inaugurated, you had the largest protest demonstration in the history of the inauguration of any president. And they were calling President Bush the man that stole the presidency. Y'all forgot that, didn't you? The country was deeply divided until September the 11th. Congress was locked down and struggled, Democrat and Republican, until September the 11th. I read something written by two Frenchmen called Osama bin Laden, The Forbidden Truth. And they said that early on in the Bush administration, he was negotiating with the Taliban. And he said they were a source of stability. Why was he negotiating? Let me tell you. Look up here. All of this, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, this is oil. And guess what? A company called Unical owns 75% of the oil up here. Mr. Dick Cheney, I think. And what they wanted was a pipeline to come down through Afghanistan into Pakistan, into the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, as an outlet for the oil of that area. The Taliban didn't agree. Now, listen to this. Back in July, an American representative went and met with the Taliban, sometimes in the UN, sometimes right here, or in Peshawar, in Pakistan, and said, look, either you accept a carpet of gold, or we will bury you under a carpet of bombs. This is July. September the 11th. Now, Osama bin Laden. They didn't know nothing the day before. September the 10th, you don't know nothing about no terrorists. September the 11th, 12th, and 13th, they got 19 faces in the paper. These are the guys. Well, when did you learn that? How did you learn that? Something is wrong with this picture. Now look at this. Muslims, Arabs got all the blame, sure enough. And they went immediately to the Congress, beating the drums of war. See, we've been attacked. This is a shame. Oh, look at all the Americans that lost their lives. Yeah. President asked for 20 billion. Congress said no, 40 billion. And the big military powers saying, oh, our companies are not going to go down. Now you got to keep that spirit of war up now, see? So you're the pawns in all of this. The media drumming it up. And nobody that had a serious voice of questioning, they cut them off immediately. And, you know, some very good Christians, like Billy Graham's son. I mean, that's big when you come from Billy Graham. And he spoke something very ugly about Islam. And so did Reverend Falwell. The God of Islam is a God of hate. And the God of Christianity is a God of love. Ask them black people who died in the South and all the people that dying all over the world from so-called Christians. It's all right, it's all right, it's all right. This brother just needed a little water. He'll be all right. Leave him alone. He's good. See him getting up. Don't lose your attention over here. We got somebody to handle that over there. But I'm almost where I want to be. Now, I'd like to take you to Asia a minute. Let's go to Indonesia. Now, right here in Indonesia, a lot of islands, this is one of the largest concentrations of Muslims in the world. There was a leader here called President Sukarno. He's a strong nationalist. And in 1955, that man, Sukarno, called what is called the Bandung Conference, where all the darker nations of the earth were invited, and no European nation was invited. No white people invited to that at all. Now that sent a strong signal to Europe and America. What are they talking about? That we can't come. Well, they were talking about you. Well, that's what they were doing. Then notice this. Sukarno was overthrown, and a man by the name of Suharto came to power. And as I asked President Wahid, former president of Indonesia, I had read that over 500,000 Indonesians lost their lives from the CIA stuff. And President Wahid said, no, it was more close to 1 million. Now, you want to know why people in the world hate? You don't understand the dirt that goes on in your name. And that's why the American people have to be awakened. Am I upsetting you? You know, I'm not trying to upset you. But now that they've destroyed the Taliban, Mr. Karzai, whom America set up, he now will get the carpet of gold. And let's see if that pipeline won't come through. Now I'd like to close this so-called war on terrorism gives every repressive regime in the world a hiding place, because all they have to do is say, I'm fighting terrorism. Now, brothers and sisters, there is a difference between a terrorist and a freedom fighter. You have to know the difference. If you were a slave master, Nat Turner was what? I said, if you were a slave master, Nat Turner was a terrorist. But to the slave, he's a freedom fighter. If you were in Haiti, when Napoleon sent his armies there, to Napoleon and France, Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines and Christophe were terrorists. But to the people of Haiti, freedom fighters. If you were a part of the Crown of England, Paul Revere, the Minutemen, Crispus Attucks, terrorists. But to the Americans in the colonies, these are the freedom fighters that gave you what you call the United States of America. Now, on this earth, there are regimes that are unworthy. And there are people who earnestly want to be free. And if you lived in South Africa, Mandela was a terrorist to the South African leadership, but to the suffering people, he was their champion. And that's why he's honored all over the world, because he was willing to pay a price. John Brown, a white man who hated slavery and fought against it, to the establishment he was an enemy. But in his conscience, he died because he believed that slavery would be the undoing of America. Martin Luther King Jr. to many whites in this nation was a troublemaker. Am I lying? Some of you that got his picture on your wall today, when Martin Luther King spoke against the war in Vietnam, many preachers turned him down, turned against him, turned on him. To J. Edgar Hoover, he was an un-American and a demon. But to us, he was a freedom fighter. Malcolm X. To the government of the United States was an enemy of America, but to us, a freedom fighter. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was called un-American, an enemy, but to us, he's a freedom fighter. So as beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, I ask the United Nations to develop a definition of what a terrorist is and use that as a standard by which to judge who is and who is not. The UN right now cannot define what a terrorist is. And because they are slow in coming up with a definition, every repressive regime now is having a holiday, killing people that are trying to call them back to faith. So when America says, this is not against Islam, the religion of Islam is the religion of peace. It's President Bush saying this. You don't lie on our religion. It is the religion of peace. But this book, Quran, contains guidance from Allah through Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, of every situation that you would confront up to the day of judgment. So it teaches us how to conduct war and how war should end. It's a great religion. But the press has made the world think that Islam is a religion of terrorism. Who was Timothy McVeigh? What church did he belong to? You don't even know. Because when they wrote of Timothy McVeigh, his actions were so un-Christian-like, they would never say Christian Timothy McVeigh. They just said Timothy McVeigh. How in the hell is it then that everybody that does something wrong and makes a mark on the faith, you have to put our faith in it? Muslim terrorists. These two words are not synonymous. They have no compatibility with each other. No Muslim is a terrorist. But every Muslim is challenged by God to stand up against tyrants. Speak against them. Do something to stop tyranny.
Think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it, think about it.